Welcome to the Tour de France podcast with humansinvent.com. My name is Richard Moore and I'm joined by Daniel Friebe and Ciro Scognamiglio,
Well done, Rick.
cycling correspondent, Gazzetta dello Sport.
Hi everyone, and I apologize for
Great.
my bad English.
We love it. We're going to talk about today's stage, which finished in Ajaccio, where we are now, still on board the Mega Smeralda, our press boat. But we started today in Bastia, where we were entertained in the village départ by some of the locals. Right, chaps, let's talk about today's stage. I didn't really know what to expect. There were two big climbs in the middle. That got rid of Marcel Kittel, the yellow jersey, and also Mark Cavendish, who we thought might hang on today. And then there was an interesting little climb near, 11 kilometres from the finish, where Chris Froome had a little dig. There was a real fast pace coming through Ajaccio before that climb. Actually, I noticed at that point Radio Shack, who eventually won the stage, were to the fore at that point as well. And one rider who was up near the front is a guy we've talked about Andy Schleck. Daniel, what were your impressions of today's stage?
First thing to point out is that I actually missed that climb because there was an epic boat ride, about the fourth epic boat ride so far of this tour, from one boat where the press room is situated and on another boat to the finish. It took about half an hour, so most people who went to the finish actually missed the climb, missed the key action. Just caught the end of Chris Froome attacking over the top there. I was slightly surprised. Clearly, he just had outstanding legs today. Sort of the French say fire in his legs, and he couldn't help himself. And I think it's a good way to ride. We saw at the Giro, Hejerdal very aggressive in the first few stages. It didn't work out for him in the end, but one thing that was a recurring theme, speaking to the people in Sky, at the Sky team tonight, was that it's better to ride that way, be committed, decisive. There was a lot of talk before the tour about the possibility of crashes, accidents in Corsica, and one way of sort of circumventing that risk is really taking the race by the scruff of the neck, which Froome did.
And he did say that one reason for trying to go clear was that he knew the descent was tricky and technical. I think this was the stage actually where until quite recently there was no finishing straight. The road hadn't been tarmacked.
Yeah.
They came and recce'd this back in March and they weren't able to recce the whole thing, but he obviously knew that descent was potentially quite dangerous. It was a very, very fast descent, heart in the mouth type stuff.
But it did give us a taste of how Froome might surprise even the Sky team directors at certain points in this race.
Well,
in the same way he did last year.
He rides very, very differently to Bradley Wiggins.
Yeah.
The contrast in styles is remarkable. Ciro, what did you make of today's stage?
Yeah, I agree with this contrast of styles between Froome and Wiggins. I would like to point it out that after the stage I had the possibility to talk to Chris Froome. He seemed very relaxed. I asked him, Chris, this attack was a kind of message to your rivals for this tour, for next stages, and he answered, it was not my intention, but if my rivals want to consider this as a message, it's up to them. And he seemed very relaxed, I must confess, thinking already about also tomorrow's stage, defined by him a very tricky day.
It's a popular way of riding, isn't it? There was a lot of talk last year that Sky were quite boring. Was that the reaction in Italy as well? Is that the impression that people have in Italy, cycling fans have of the way that Sky ride?
Yeah, definitely.
The land of panache, even though it's a French word.
Yes, exactly. Definitely. And also, in Italy, the sentiment for the Team Sky is, in my opinion, it's not so good. In Italy, the Team Sky often is considered as a kind of robotic team, very scheduled, very precise, not with the fantasy that normally Latin people take in the things, but I think there are also stereotypes. So I think that definitely Froome could be more aggressive than Wiggins.
And could that change the perception, do you think, of Team Sky?
Maybe. I'm not sure. It depends on things will go in this Tour de France. Sometimes stereotypes are difficult to change. But certainly if Froome's starts like that, attacking already on the second stage, definitely it could change, yeah.
I mean, he looked very, very fresh at the finish. I mean, I saw a lot of riders come over the line and were absolutely exhausted after today's stage, slumped over handlebars, the kind of scenes we're used to seeing at the end of tough mountain stages. Froome, he was fresh as a daisy.
He looked very, very fresh. He looked like he was just raring to go, like a dog on a lead, and maybe we'll talk about a dog in a minute. Actually, I remember the Côte de Serang last year, at the end of stage 1 last year, standing at the top and being struck as riders. It was a hard little ramp to the finish last year, just on the outskirts of Liège, and being struck by how riders looked, how they appeared as they came across the line. And the one rider who struck me then as being incredibly fresh was Bradley Wiggins.
Yeah.
You can tell a lot after efforts like that,
Yeah,
just what
absolutely.
kind of condition people are in, I think.
Chris Froome, very, very relaxed. There's been a lot of talk, as Ciro mentioned there, about how sort of robotic Sky are, how it's difficult to get access to some of the riders, how they're a bit poker faced. But one of the sort of favourable things about the finish today was that team buses weren't able to access the finish, so a lot of the riders were milling around cars, etc., etc. And Froome seemed very happy to just mill around and chat with the team staff.
This is good. This is good. Yeah.
This is good, and
There's a different ambience, a different atmosphere around the team, I think, with Froome leading it as opposed to Wiggins leading it.
I have the same impression. I had possibility to follow a lot also Bradley Wiggins in the Giro, this year. In the first part, and it was not easy to access, to talk to him. Certainly it's a policy of the team, but I think it depends also on the character of the rider. Some of the members of the Team Sky, I had the impression that maybe they were also afraid. I don't want to say afraid, I don't know the exact word in English, but afraid of Brad.
I think afraid is the right word.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they were not able to imagine how we could react.
Perhaps not comfortable.
Not comfortable. And so maybe with Froome is different.
He's approachable, isn't he?
His approach is different, and maybe also the approach of the team is different.
Well, so the stage, I mean, we've not mentioned the winner yet, Jan Bakeland.
No, we've not mentioned the other key figure
Radio
either,
Shack
who was Mario Cipollini.
Mario Cipollini.
Ciro,
a rider that you are close to.
Yes, we discovered him during the stage, because we anticipate...
this is today, I should point out.
Today, yes, exactly, because, in this marvelous island, there are no alternative roads, so you are obliged, if you want to arrive to the finish line, you are obliged to do the same parcours of the rider. And so we were more or less 30 k's to go, and it was Mario, completely...
Mario.
Yes, our Lion King, or former Lion King, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you've got you know Cipollini quite well, don't you?
Not really.
But
I don't
as a
say
newspaper, you published his
it was
columns
columns
until
Sure.
you sort of
Till you stuck the knife him.
You stuck the knife. I think I was with you, Ciro, in Qatar or Oman when that story appeared about Cipollini and his links with Dr. Fuentes.
Fortunately, I was in Qatar, I have to say, because
did he catch up with you finally today?
Yes, exactly, and so maybe for
that
Mario.
The accelerator.
No, I mean Mario at the very beginning when he sees us, he look at the car and he understand that because we have a big.
Gazzetta dello Sport on your car.
Exactly. I mean, so it was normal with us.
Did you speak to him?
Not at all. I mean, he just.
Did you admire him?
Exactly.
He was topless.
He's marvelous. Yeah. And I must confess that if I'm not wrong, he's 46 now
Yeah,
years
yeah.
old. Very,
Must be close to that.
fit, maybe is the right
Did he
word.
look good? Did he look
Yeah,
good?
yeah.
No,
I think
no cyclist tan for him.
no, better than all three of us put together. I think.
What? No.
He's
Come on,
he's-
Ciro. Don't exaggerate.
Don't be
Don't
modest, Ciro.
exaggerate.
okay.
So,
It's my
Mario,
opinion. But
was he on his own or was he riding with other people?
no, with other two people.
Ah.
Yes.
But looking fit, looking strong.
Yeah. I think that he's convinced. He's still convinced that in a flat stage,
He could still win.
because they win absolute time. For
Well, he
sure.
was talking about a comeback last year as a lead-out man for Gardini, wasn't he, last
Yeah,
year?
yeah.
Ciro, will there be any consequences to the Gazetta's investigation into their publication of the Fuentes documents?
For the moment, no news about that. Also because the Italian Federation and the CONI, they didn't open an inquiry about that. We don't have for the moment any more documents about him. So for the moment, no.
But
news.
Mario's clearly not ashamed. You know, he's here. He's on the Tour de France
Brazen.
route. He's pretty brazen.
He was already in the Giro. And, he was already in the Giro.
So
as,
his profile hasn't changed a great deal.
No, not really,
No.
really. As a matter of fact, I saw him also in the Giro. He slept, if I'm not wrong, in the Dimaro, the day in which the stage of the Giro was cancelled, in the same hotel.
I was starting to get a bit nervous there when Ciro said he slept. I didn't know what was coming next.
No. He slept. He slept in the same hotel of Vini Fantini.
Okay.
Yes, he was there the day in which Di Duca was tested positive.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. just a coincidence.
Unfortunate coincidence.
Exactly.
I'm sure. Well, we haven't actually. Well, let's finish this segment off by just discussing briefly what happened at the end of the stage. Jan Bakeland attacked from the six-man group that kind of went clear in the lull after Chris Froome was caught. And he held on. It's very unusual to see that in an early stage of the tour. A lone winner, somebody holding off the bunch in the way that he did. Now, I don't know if I'm making too much of this, but a dog did run out in front of the bunch. A West Highland Terrier, a Scottish dog, deprived Scotland's David Miller of possibly taking the yellow jersey today. Although his own team, I think, were partly to blame as well. He's 1 second off the lead. But it was a great win by Bakeland, wasn't it? Not to take anything away from that.
He won like a true finisseur, didn't he?
He did.
Dusting off that
Did-
word
well,
for
yeah,
the first time in
kind
the...
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked like he was
But
riding through mud up the finishing
But he's a
stage.
guy. He's a
Right.
guy with some pedigree. Won the
Yeah.
Tour de l'Avenir. I think he's had a few injury problems over the
He
years.
did talk about his disastrous year,
yeah.
yeah. It's good to see something a bit different. Mark Cavendish said that we might see a different rider in yellow every day, and that might prove
Yeah,
to be the
it's
case.
just a bit of a shame. You know, we've talked about this before, and just to go back to the issue of time bonuses. You know, the general classification can be almost frozen, sort of,
Yeah.
you know, fossilised as it is. Well, and we've got the team time trial on Tuesday, so that might shake things up. But, you know, there was the potential, for instance, if Miller had taken the yellow jersey, if Garmin then were to win the team time trial, he could have had the yellow jersey for a week. And, you know, it's really not a great incentive to aggressive
I think
racing.
Miller's still got a very good chance of taking yellow on Tuesday if he can.
It's possible.
You know,
It'd be
depends
interesting
what
to
happens
see.
tomorrow.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how those teams with who have been weakened by injuries and crashes, how they cope with those problems. Dave Brailsford was pretty confident tonight that Sky would be fine, and that he said if you rotate well and being one man down, in their case, Geraint Thomas probably won't be fully fit for the team time trial.
If he's riding at all.
If he's riding at all. He said if you rotate well, if you play it smartly, then 22 kilometres of team time trial, you
25,
shouldn't 25. You
25,
shouldn't suffer too much.
But why didn't speak yet about the great performance of Italian riders today?
We're going to do that. Ciro, we're
I'm
going
here for what?
Ciro, we're coming to that, don't worry.
You're listening to the Tour de France podcast with humansinvent.com and Sharp.
Daniel and Ciro, here we are, still on our
Mega
press
Smeralda.
boat. It's a huge boat anchored in the harbour in Ajaccio. Beautiful, biggest town on Corsica. 65,000 people, I believe, live here, so it's quite... Ciro, are you getting some emails there?
Yeah.
Ciro, my memory of you from Qatar and Oman is you spent the entire 3 weeks with your mobile phone pressed to your ear. What was... I'm surprised your newspaper group is still in business.
Well, they barely are. I think
bill.
there were 400 redundancies shortly after Ciro's return from the Gulf.
What was your phone bill?
No, the truth is that my chief loves me.
You're carte blanche.
It's my
whatever
luck,
phone
but
bill you want.
also my luck.
Okay.
Because in this case,
Excellent. Now, Ciro, we haven't invited you to join us on this podcast tonight and bring an international flavour. Not because we couldn't get any Belgians because they were all busy writing about today's winner, but we thought it would be interesting to get your take on the Italians in this tour. Is there anybody we should... There are some riders that we're quite excited about seeing. Moreno Moser, people like that, who's making his debut at the tour, and obviously has great pedigree. Tell us who else we should be looking out for, and who do you expect to do well here? Don't say Damiano Cunego for the podium.
No, I must confess, no. Not even £1.
I think Mario Cipollini's got a better chance of winning on the Champs-Elysees. No?
Maybe. It's much easier.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Cunego is a really difficult rider to understand until the end. I mean, because also his character is not easy to understand. Imagine that in Italy we have 18 riders here, and if we are happy after the 4th place in a stage, that means a lot.
Really?
That means that Italy won't be really, in my opinion, a great factor in this tour.
Right.
Well, unless, I mean, sometimes, I remember, for example, 4 years ago, more or less in the same situation, a little bit better, but more or less, and Nocentini, I mean, in a breakaway on the Pyrenees,
Yellow
and he got
jersey.
the yellow jersey for 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years.
That's incredible.
More than Lance
That is
Armstrong.
remarkable.
No. My God, 8 days.
Lance Armstrong, absolutely.
My God,
We
it's 8
remember
days.
well.
8 days.
AG2R he rode for at the time.
And we were very lucky because every day we had a lot of stuff to write about him.
Yeah.
So our...
Whereas today you had a quiet day.
Yes, exactly.
That's why he's here.
That's why you're here drinking beer with us in the bar of the Mega Smeralda.
Because normally I don't drink beer.
I know. Well, you're not drinking that one very quickly.
No.
And it's your round.
But Ciro,
I'm only joking.
But Ciro, this is, it is a worry. In all seriousness, it is a worry for Italian cycling, isn't it? Because this is a trend now. Ciro's slowly losing the plot. This is a trend in Italian cycling that fewer and fewer have to stop.
We're going to have to take a pause there.
We have to stop.
This is the humansinvent.com Tour de France podcast. Powered by Sharp.
Okay, we're back, composed. We've got over our giggles. At least I think we have. Ciro, address this question, Italian cycling. Where's that?
Where's it at?
The problem is that our trend of Italian cycling is true, is not so good. In my opinion, the only excellent rider that Italy has in this moment is not in the Tour de France.
Nibali.
For sure. Certainly already he showed last year when he arrived third in the overall in the Tour de France. Is the only really Italian at the maximum level in cycling. Because also, for example, in Italy, you can imagine we talk a lot about Moreno Moser, also for his family, for his father, for his aunt, for his uncle. But Moreno Moser, in my opinion, certainly He's talented, but he's not so strong. For example, Sagan is stronger than him, for sure.
Yeah,
Also,
and their teammates, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And also other, for example, Guardini. I don't know to give you another name, but Kittel is stronger than Guardini. So Italy has some good young cyclists, but not at the maximum level.
But Ciro, do they realise that the thing that always strikes me about Italian cycling is that they still don't really realise how bad the situation is, and they're really not taking action. They still think that they're unlucky, or they still think that it's. They talk about the cycle and that it's going to turn around, but actually, if it carries on like it is, it's going to get worse before it gets better, perhaps.
You describe well the majority of the Italian mentality, mainly also because they don't think, okay, now which are the country's leader in cycling movement? What are they doing now? Let's go and see if
Let's
we
learn
can,
from other
let's
people.
learn from other people.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
In my opinion, Italy has not this tendency. The Italian cycling. Certainly, in the past, Italy had an excellent role in cycling, but now times have changed for sure, and there is not this mentality yet.
And in fact, they're quite jealous of the likes of Team Sky. We saw at the Giro. You know, if you spoke to people like Luca Scinto, the manager of Vini Fantini, he says, you know, their cycling is not, their way of seeing cycling is not my way of seeing cycling. I don't, I'm glad that we don't ride in the way that
So
they
sort of arrogance.
Yeah, that
as
we
well.
don't approach cycling in the way that they approach cycling.
Exactly, and so I don't see in the next future, this year, next year, in 2 years, a new birth.
A new birth.
No.
Moreno Moser, though, is a young rider, and he's a promising rider. Not just we know about him not just because of his name.
No.
What can we expect from him at this tour?
It's difficult to say. I will be surprised if he will win a stage, because this season, for the moment, has been so good as last year.
He's not made the progress, perhaps, that we expected.
No, actually not. Because after first year, 5 victories and 5 good victories, also took the overall of Tour of Poland, a World Tour race with 2 stages. But for the moment, only 1 victory. Also, you know that before the Tour de France, the week before, there was the Italian National Championship in Trentino, near his house, but he was really not in the race.
Right.
And he has to learn a lot. So I would be surprised if he would win.
Speaking of cycling dynasties, I spoke this morning to Jean-Paul van Poppel, the director at Vacansoleil, whose 2 sons, Boy van Poppel and Danny van Poppel, are both in the race in his team. Danny van Poppel is the youngest rider at 19, the youngest rider to ride the Tour de France since World War II. And he was 3rd yesterday, so he wore the white jersey today. Doesn't wear it after today's stage, unfortunately. But a great debut for him. And I spoke to Jean-Paul van Poppel, who was a fantastic sprinter in the 80s. Won 9 stages of the Tour. Won 4 stages, I remember, in 88. And he was one of the first sprinters to have a dedicated lead-out train, the Super Convex green train in the 80s. So I spoke to Jean-Paul van Poppel, great name as well, this morning, about his sons and about what it's like to manage them. Well, were you surprised to see your son, your younger son, up there fighting for the stage win yesterday?
Of course, we took him with this kind of plan because we know he's pretty fast. He proved that in Tour of Belgium already after a hard stage. This is what you hope for. If you're realistic, you think, his first tour, he's just 19. So still a surprise, but I can't say I didn't expect it because we knew he could do something. Yeah.
You were obviously a strong sprinter yourself. Is he a similar kind of rider to you?
No, I don't think so. I was not that strong as a rider that I could survive on small climbs. I think for him is also a great future if he still keeps growing like he do now. For the classics, Paris-Roubaix, Flanders, all that kind of special.
So he's more of a Peter Sagan than a Mark Cavendish, say, perhaps?
Yeah,
that kind of
for
rider.
sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, looks like that, but yeah, he's still not on his top level. If you're 25, they say you're on your top level, and from then on, it's not gonna improve anymore. Sometimes it can change, of course, but we know he has still 5 to 6 years in front of him. Yeah.
How have you coached both your sons quite a lot? I mean, have you tried to help them, especially in bunch sprints and so on?
No, not at all, actually. I always had for myself the idea that they shouldn't race that early. I started when I was 10 years, and I thought it was too early to keep the motivation up and do some other things as well before, but it was very difficult. My oldest son, Boy, was doing all kinds of sports when he was young, and he was 10. He only wanted to do cycling, so he started, and then he was 6 years. He already raced.
6 years old.
Yeah, he started racing. And
were you pleased for them to go into cycling? Were you happy for them to?
I never pushed them at all. You know, I make sure there was a bike and that they get to the races. If I couldn't go, my father or the mother was there, and So we give them the opportunity to do what they like the best. We never push them actually, never. So also not really coaching from you have to do this or that or no. It was never like that because I think they have good skills from themselves. They didn't need that much, and it's also difficult to give the good ideas in the sprint. You can say you have to stay calm and. But you see the opposite in characters. The oldest one, is very calm. He's very good in positioning. Danny is just the rough way to get his plays done there. He go through a wall if you have to. The other one is more smarter.
Do they get on well as well?
Yeah. So I never had to do that.
Do they get on well together as brothers, do they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You've been a manager now for a few years. You were at Cervelo, of course. What's it like managing your sons?
Yeah, it's still your sons. You talk like them as a father and not as a coach. So it's very difficult if they do something wrong to give them some negative.
Do you try and treat them all the same, all the 9 riders?
Yeah. For me, it's easier to give other riders say, hey, you didn't do good this or that. And with your own kids, you don't want to be too tough on them because you be the father, and it works differently. But we have Hilaire van der Schuren here. He was also the one who came with the idea to bring Danny here already, together with his brother and Chris Boekmans to go for the sprints. Yesterday worked out pretty good. Hopefully we can do another day like that, and then. But they have the motivation. We're first in the team classification, so gives also a boost.
So was Danny quite excited after the stage yesterday? Was it difficult to bring him back down to the ground?
He has more character. For me, he's very relaxed, and if he gets third, he wants to be second, and if he's second, he wants to be first. So he's not thinking of. He's enjoying it. I hope he is enjoying it, but I think he's more focusing on results than enjoying things.
The Tour de France with humansinvent.com. Innovation, craftsmanship and design.
That was Jean-Paul van Poppel we were hearing from there. And Ciro, while we were listening to that interview, you had a little story about Van Poppel.
Yes, just a curious thing that, as you told, he's the youngest rider since World War II.
Yeah.
But I read that Axel Merckx, for example, Eddie Merckx's son, is not happy with this. I read that he wrote on Twitter, there is a teenager in the Tour de France who is sport director. In this case,
Axel Merckx is basically saying that he shouldn't be riding the Tour.
Yeah.
I think so.
I understand though, Ciro,
his point of view.
I know Jean-Paul van Poppel, and as he said there, that was very, very much against.
Well, he didn't say it as strong as that, but
I've heard that he was actually against.
He did say it wasn't his decision.
Danny riding, and I also understand that Hilaire van Schuren, you pronounce his name, the team manager, has been quite open about the fact that this is about publicity more than anything else.
As Jean-Paul van Poppel told us, desperately looking for a new sponsor. And he did say that if you haven't got a new sponsor by the Tour, chances are diminishing. So they really need to do something spectacular. And they did get a lot of publicity with his performance.
Yeah, they have left some riders, perhaps not potential stage winners,
Fletcher,
but riders
very aggressive again.
No, but they've riders with a decent profile. They've left them at home as well, like Kenny Van Hummel, Romain Fayou, who are usually pretty prominent in the Tour de France.
Yeah, no, it's time is running out for Vacansoleil, I think, to find another sponsor.
Yeah, in
and
a way,
Thomas again, who they'll have great hopes, is apparently struggling as well with illness here.
Right.
So.
I mean, they've made some stupid decisions. Signed riders. Ricardo Rico was a stupid decision.
That was
Jose
Rejano.
Rejano was a stupid decision.
Even if Twitters of Ricardo Rico often are brilliant.
Ricardo, as you say,
he's the best. Him and Pozzato are a league of their own.
Ricardo Rico
so
on Twitter.
Italy has still a role in cycling.
You don't have to. You don't have to follow Ricardo Rico on Twitter though, because Daniel just retweets everything.
Yeah, I translate. He actually pays me to do that.
Yeah. Brilliant. So tomorrow's our final day on Corsica.
No! I thought you were going to say on the Mega Smeralda.
Yeah, we're over this boat, aren't we? We've had enough of this boat, and it's many levels, and it's sort of airless press room. It's strange that you're on a boat, and it's a very kind of airless, sterile environment inside, filled with Italians as well. All the staff here are Italians, which is a bonus, obviously.
Not just Italians, it's Neapolitans.
Okay.
Neapolitans,
What's been your impression of Corsica, Ciro? It's a very Italian island. All the names are Italian.
In the past, if I'm not wrong, it was Corsica belongs to Italy.
So did Nice. So it's a tour of Italy the first few days.
Yeah. My first time here, in my opinion, it's marvelous.
Will you be coming back on holiday?
Why not? I hope so. Also because they are richer. Normally, where there are mountains, normally I prefer to go on the other part.
You don't like mountains?
Exactly.
You like beaches?
Definitely. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
You like Mario Cipollini?
Yeah, exactly.
But there are beaches here as well. Beautiful beaches.
Yeah. So it's a
You'll be back.
place.
But the tour, how have you thought? What have you thought of the tour on Corsica?
Not really well organized, in my opinion.
But is that the Corsicans' fault, or because I know that last night we were out in Bastia last night, and there was a feeling some of the Corsicans that we spoke to were feeling very down about what happened with the bus and the fiasco at the end of stage one, as though
it would reflect on them.
It wasn't their fault, but they felt it reflected on them that they had it confirmed a lot of the French do look down their noses, I think, at the Corsicans.
Yeah.
Or they feel that, certainly, and I think they felt that they'd kind of dropped the ball a little bit, or that would be the perception of people.
Corsica in recent times has had this image as a kind of bellicose, sort of belligerent people who, there have been terrorist incidents, etc., separatist incidents, but actually the picture we've had of Corsica has been very quaint and sort of genteel, hasn't it? These tiny mountain villages with really even the starts Ajaccio, if that's how it's pronounced. I'm not sure if you pronounce it.
Ajaccio.
Ajaccio, I think.
Ajaccio, okay. And Porto Vecchio was, very, very sleepy, really.
Yeah, I mean, there haven't been loads and loads of people, but, in Bastia last night, there was a lovely atmosphere.
Yeah.
Bands, music out in the streets, and, people, there'd open pop-up restaurants, there'd been shops, things that had opened as restaurants, so we had dinner in one of those places, and people were very friendly, very welcoming. It was almost a shame that there weren't more people who seemed to have visited to come and see the tour.
But I would subscribe to what Ciro said. It has not been particularly well organised in certain respects. For instance, today, there were very few people at the finish line because it was a very inaccessible point of the island, and I'm sure it looked fantastic from the helicopter on TV.
I mean, the official finish was at Ajaccio, but actually it was 11 kilometres along the coast. I guess that's because it would have been a too short a stage. Otherwise, they would have felt. I mean, because the options of loops and so on are just. They're not there.
Yeah, they're on.
They could have maybe added a loop at the start.
Yeah, I mean, but it has. The terrain has added another dimension, certainly.
And tomorrow should be an intriguing day.
Yeah. And today, I know Christian Prudhomme before the tour was slightly nervous about. We've seen stages which on paper look great over the past few years turn out to be pretty boring. And I think he was quite nervous that today would turn out to be quite sterile. But actually, the riders really put on a good show today.
Right, let's wrap it up for this podcast at the end of stage 2. Ciro nodding vigorously as I say that.
Ciro's been a massive hit, hasn't
he's obviously had enough.
Ciro's been a huge
thank you very much for joining us, Ciro.
I think we're best guest till now.
We're best guest and our first guest till now, but also best. But we're very privileged to have somebody, representing such an organ as Gazzetta dello Sport join us on our humble podcast. So we thank you very much, Ciro.
Thanks to you.
And we hope you come back when there's a good Italian story. We'll drag you away from your deadlines and we'll bring you down and
as soon as possible.
Join our podcast again. Thank you very much, Ciro.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
And we'll speak to you again tomorrow.